So it's my great pleasure, thank you for surviving lunch and coming back. It is my great pleasure to introduce Josh Benaloh, who is one of the pioneering researchers working on a very exciting and very promising type of election system that allows end-to-end verifiability of votes. And this is an area that is incredibly powerful, but also incredibly complex. And in fact, these end-to-end verifiable voting systems use pretty much all the cryptography. If you are an advanced cryptographer who knows all the techniques, you get to use almost all of them in the kinds of systems. Josh is particularly gifted at making all of this understandable, even to me, and we're really happy to have him with us today. So please join me in welcoming Josh Benaloh.
Thank you so much, Matt. Yes, there is a lot of complexity here. I will try to tone it down and keep it simple. I will add that although this has been described as a new and promising technology, it actually goes back to well before what you said at the beginning. I first did work on this in 1985. I've been working on this for more than 40 years. This is a very old technology that's been around for a long time, but it has improved over the years and gotten to the point where now we can do a lot of things we couldn't do before. So I want to start with a news flash that should shock everybody in this room. We learned 3 weeks ago from the White House that our election systems may have some vulnerabilities. I'm sure everybody here is utterly shocked by this announcement. So the question, of course, is what do we do? Well, we have a few possibilities. The first, as Matt said this morning, is we should be hardening our systems to prevent attacks. Absolutely critical, perhaps the most important thing, or it's certainly one of the top things we should be doing in the country right now. Now, we can start making a list of things we should do. Voter-facing devices should not be internet-enabled in any way. We shouldn't have secret keys in hard-coded. We could actually sort of have an hour brainstorming session here and build a list of probably well over 100 things that should be done. And we could start doing them, and if we actually did all of those, it would be great. Now, who here believes that if we actually did all of that, we would then be done? Have systems that are secure, no problem, no attacks are possible, we're done. Anybody want to take that position? Thanks, Jeremy. Okay. It's not enough, and Matt talked this morning a little bit about prevention and detection. We also need detection. And we can actually do something more with detection, because I will claim that we can actually achieve that standard with detection, where we can actually detect anything and get to the point where the detection is complete. So since we cannot absolutely ensure that our systems are immune to attack, we really should also do as much detection as we can. And that means auditing of some form or another, maybe multiple forms. In fact, there are two principal forms of auditing that we can talk about today. One is, I'll describe it as administrative audits, and that includes RLAs. And we'll be hearing much more about RLAs. RLAs are great. I am a big supporter of RLAs. I believe RLAs or some equivalent should be done in every contest and every election. And I say some equivalent because sometimes, especially in a very small election, you just want to jump to the last step of an RLA of, okay, forget this, let's just hand count. But you want to do something of that sort in every contest and every election, I believe. The other kind of auditing is what I'll be talking about today, is a public audit. And I'll contrast it. They should both be done in every election, I think. If you're doing one, you should do the other. You should do both, okay? Let me look at some of the details. In an administrative audit, it's run by the election officials. Election officials will organize an event. It's after all the votes are in, ideally as close as possible to the time when all the votes have been cast and counted. That's the time to start doing an audit. The election administrators will do it ideally, even though they're running it in public view with public participation, bring everybody in, involve everybody in a full audit like an RLA. And the ground truth that's used in these administrative audits is the physical paper ballots that are collected from the voters. So this means that there's an assumption that election administrators have properly curated these paper ballots, make sure they haven't been added to, nothing's been removed, nothing's been changed. That's the ground truth we have to work with. Now, a public audit is a little different. It can be done by anyone. Voters, observers, media, candidates, anyone can do this, and can do it anytime. And what I mean by anytime is essentially anytime tallies are released, and this includes sub-tallies, a partial tally. A new precinct's votes are announced during the counting. As soon as those results are out, the data can also be released that allows those to be audited by the public. Anybody who's watching, any individual can do this. And the ground truth here is the actual votes cast by the voters. The voters' own voter intent is what creates the ground truth for a public audit. What the voters want to vote. There's no paper component that's required of this. I'm a supporter of paper ballots. I think that's the way things should be done. I'll talk about that a little bit. But this kind of audit does not rely on the paper in any way. Okay. So I will make the claim here that public audits can detect any alteration of election results. Any attacks, insider attacks, even attacks that have not yet been invented. We can build a public audit system today that can detect all attacks that alter votes, alter tallies in any way. Okay, so these are my claims. Now, let me ask right now, who here believes that I can achieve all of this? Okay, I've got 3 people. Four or five. A few of them know me, so yeah, it's a little unfair. Who here believes no, I'm just going too far? Okay? So I counted like 5 people, you see 2 or 3. Okay, how many people think, well, I'm not sure yet, so I want to hear it out. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think I counted 9. Okay? And you could look around and count. Well, I'm guilty of a little trick here, because we just had a fully verifiable public audit, right? We just did that. Everybody could check. Everybody could see. So I get to talk now about the technique for doing this. It's called end-to-end verifiability. And that's, we just had what's known as an end-to-end verifiable election. The name kind of sucks. Sorry, I can't take any credit or blame for that, but it does make sense because it does get everything from the time people are indicating their intentions to vote all the way through to the count. End-to-end verifiability has 2 properties. One is that voters are able to verify that their votes are accurately counted. And the second is that anyone can verify the recorded tallies, recorded votes have been accurately tallied. These are the two properties that Matt mentioned this morning, in fact, that you want in an election. You want to know that the votes are recorded correctly, and you want to know that the recorded votes are counted correctly. This is what can be achieved. Now, note that the who in these are a little bit different. It would be nice if number one could also be anyone can verify the votes have been correctly recorded, but it's very hard for me to verify that your vote has been correctly recorded without knowing what your vote is. Okay? So, I want to emphasize there's absolutely no trust required to do this whatsoever. Voters, observers, news media, candidates, anybody can verify the integrity without having to trust any election software, any election hardware, any election personnel. You can do it all by yourself. Okay? So I want to harken back to what elections look like for a lot of the history of this country. Back to the 19th century, this is a typical sense of what an election looked like. People would go to a public square and in public announce their votes. There was no such thing as a secret ballot election in the US or just about anywhere in the mid-19th century. Starting after the mid-19th century, the idea of a secret ballot election was an innovation. It was a technological innovation that people would go to a polling site and their privacy was publicly enforced by everybody watching that that person was able to vote privately. But a modern version of this 19th century version could be some sort of a public ledger. Now, I'm not talking about a blockchain, just a website that lists all the votes, all the voters, everybody can check and see. Okay? And this election is end-to-end verifiable, according to the definition that I've given. Everybody can check and see, yep, my vote is correct. All the votes that were here came from legitimate people. They were counted properly. Everybody can check all these aspects. Now, the astute observers in this room might have noticed that I'm leaving out an important thing that we like to have in modern elections, and that is secrecy, ballot privacy, the inability to be coerced or sell votes. Well, it turns out that's just a small step away from this. And the trick is to just add a small layer of cryptography. So you don't publish the actual raw votes, you publish something that is associated with the raw votes. Think of it as an encryption of a raw vote or a cryptographic commitment. I'll talk about that a little bit, of the raw vote. Something that is cryptographically bound inextricably to this vote and cannot be changed to some other vote. Okay? Now, once we have done this, we have to do two things to achieve this end-to-end verifiability. First, we have to give each voter some way of verifying that this strange object, this number that's no longer looking like a vote, really does match, in this case, Carol's intent. Carol has some way of seeing that that really does match it, without giving Carol the opportunity to show anybody else how she voted. Seems a little tricky, but I'll show you how it can be done. The second part is we need a mathematical proof that all of these cryptographic shards, these records of individual votes, together combine to form the announced tally. Now, this is where cryptography shines. We're really good at doing cryptographic tricks like this. And the basic approach, there are actually multiple ways in which this can be done, but the way I like best is something called homomorphic tallying. And it just uses a homomorphic kind of encryption. Now, some of you may have heard about this fully homomorphic encryption that can do all sorts of things, but it's really slow and cumbersome. I'm not talking about fully homomorphic encryption. I'm talking about a kind of homomorphic encryption that has existed for 40 years. You only have to do one operation, and that's addition. because that's all you do in elections, is you add 1 to each column, or the column, you add 1, you add 0. You just have to be able to do addition. So it's possible to do addition under the covers. You can take encrypted ballots, for instance, encrypted votes, and do nothing more than literally multiply these encryptions together, and what you get is an encryption of the sum. So you can take these individual encrypted votes and combine them, and you get an encrypted tally. And then all you have to do is open that, decrypt it, and you have got the total. You prove that you've decrypted it properly, I'll mention in a bit, we don't even need to use encryption. We can do something better. Okay, so that's part 2. Part 1 is how Carol does this. I can show you with a card trick that I like to call the world's most boring card trick, but because time is short, I want to hold that to the end, and hopefully we'll have time to do that. And hopefully I can get a volunteer to come up and we'll do the card trick. Okay, now I want to be clear. There's no obligation here on any voter. No voter is required to do anything but vote as they normally do. But voters can do additional things if they want to enhance their confidence. And that's something I found out painfully through the process, is if I get in the way of voters, get between them and voting and say, okay, well, in order to vote, you have to do this, and then check these 2 things, and then, I will get a lot of angry voters. Look at me. There are a lot of voters, almost all voters, get out of my way, I want to vote. So I've learned I cannot force voters to do anything, but I can give them extra capabilities. If you want to check more carefully, you can. And that possibility is there. And the statistics are very much on our side, because not all voters have to do any of these checks. In fact, a very small percentage of voters in a large election can do these checks, and you get very, very high confidence. And here are just a few examples. 100 voters in a national election, and you can have confidence within 1%. And if 1% of all the voters are checking, then you're confident within 100 votes out of 100 million, they say. You can get extremely high confidence. So the statistics are really good on this. Now, what do we need to make this happen? There needs to be software in some voting device that will, when it collects votes, produce the artifacts necessary to enable this public auditing. It can be in scanners, ballot marking devices, even those evil DREs we heard Secretary Kelly talk about this morning when Secretary Shelley was talking about the DREs there. We could do this for DREs. I don't want to, I want paper. My preferred approach is a scanner. So think of this as you mark a paper ballot, either hand-marked or machine-marked, but you put it in the scanner, and the smarts are in the scanner that count the votes and produce this publicly audible record. Okay? This has been reported on in many places. There was a mention of the Securing the Vote National Academy study earlier today, but there are standards for doing this. The Election Assistance Commission in the US has sadly been dismissed. All the commissioners have been dismissed, but the commission still exists. And the commission has standards that include end-to-end verifiability and how to do it. European standards include it, and there have been studies on other things that include how to do this. So this is not new. As I said, it dates back more than 40 years. From the voter's perspective, this looks exactly like current voting, with one addition, and that is some sort of confirmation that at the end of stating your intentions as a voter, I want to vote for this, this, and this, either on a touch screen or by, in this case, putting a ballot in a scanner, you get out a confirmation code. This confirmation code does not say how you voted. It's cryptographically bound to your vote, but you cannot take it and show it to somebody and say, this is how I voted. It doesn't mean anything that way. But this is an actual confirmation code from an actual device. This is a HART voting device, one of the largest voting vendors. They've built this technology into some of their systems. This is an actual confirmation that came out of one of their devices. From the voter's perspective, voters can use these confirmations and check their results on a website, see everything's on there, their votes are properly recorded, I should say votes rather than results, sorry, on the website, or they can do what most voters will do and just look at this and throw it away. That's okay. We don't need every voter checking. A tiny fraction is good enough. They can write their own apps to go through all the election artifacts and verify that everything was done right. Or they can download somebody else's apps. Here's my friend did what my niece wrote one in a computer science class. So there can be lots and lots of these apps out there. You can just believe the verifications done by others because that capability will be there, or voters can accept the results without question. It's up to the voter, up to the individual to decide. It's a matter of choice here. The big thing is you can choose where to place your trust. You're not forced to trust an election jurisdiction, an election official who you might have good reason not to trust in some cases, or election equipment that you might have good reason not to trust. So this has been used in public elections in various places. The two on the left, Scantegrity and Election Guard, have been used in public elections in the US, hand-marked paper ballots, and there have been very effective examples. Pret-a-voter was used in an internet voting scheme in Australia. Bolaños was used for internet voting in France. This can be used for internet voting. There are a lot of reasons why I don't support that. I'm really more interested in the in-person case and getting this absolute integrity in in-person. There's also some new research that says the process can be made much, much simpler for developers, for election officials, for anybody involved by not using encryptions, but by using cryptographic commitments instead, and that eliminates the need for any cryptographic keys and makes everything work much more nicely. I wish I had more time to go into the details and talk about this, but short talk. Internet voting, we've talked about it a little bit. Others have. Some places starting to do it. There's a big push. All of the expert consensus is we do not have the capability to do this well yet. But some of the things, including back here, too far back, the Future of Voting report here was about end-to-end verifiability and internet voting, and it said that if you're going to do internet voting, you must use this technology. It makes it much better, but it's still not yet enough. Okay, so I've got some references. Take a picture if you want. I'll pause for 3, 2, 1, and hopefully this will be in slides. And my final message is let the people audit. Let the people do the auditing. I'm happy to take questions, and I'm happy to show the card trick if I have a volunteer come up. Why don't I answer your question while I try to get somebody to come up and do this card trick with me? Yeah, go ahead.
Here, right here.
No, I need you to come up, or I need somebody to come up. But you've got a question, so I can't hear. You have to be very loud. I'm sorry.
I'm actually interested in more about tallied. Like in general cryptographic, what happens is it is encrypted in a way that the key remains with the people who has to decrypt it, right? So the picture that you were showing of the all-day message, is this the key that user has, which is used to verify his voter?
So he doesn't have to be wired. It's fine. So I think I heard. So when you're doing homomorphic encryption, you have to worry about the keys and when this is done with encryption. Yes, this is best done with a threshold crypto system where there are multiple keys and you need to one key is not enough to decrypt. And you can set it up so that there are 5 keys and you need to use all 5 keys independently. Or you can do a threshold system where maybe there are 5 keys and it takes 4 out of the 5 keys. So if one of the key holders is missing, you can make it work. However, this new research that I'm talking about here, you don't need the keys at all. You can do homomorphic tallying without homomorphic encryption, but instead with homomorphic cryptographic commitments, which don't have keys and don't have any of those problems. Because the device can release things at the end. I can give you more details, but it's going to take several minutes to do the math. So let me do the card trick, and the idea is pretty simple. I've got a set of possible votes here. You can vote black or red. Here is a black vote for anybody who could see it. Here is an encryption of or a commitment to a black vote. If you see this, you can't tell that it's black until I turn it over and open it and show it to you. Here is a red vote and a committed, encrypted red vote. Okay. Jeremy, I know you. You're not a shill.
I'm not a shill.
But what I'm going to do is ask you to tell me what you'd like to vote, but you'll be able to change, and I want you to be suspicious. So would you like a red vote or a black vote?
Red vote.
Okay. I claim that this is a red vote. Do you want to just believe me, or do you want to check?
I'll check.
Check. It is red. I say, this is the world's most boring card trick. Red or black? We'll try again.
Red.
Red, okay? I claim this is red. Do you believe me, or do you want to check it?
Check it.
Check it.
Okay.
Red again. Red or black? Getting bored yet?
Red.
Red. Okay. I claim this is red. Keep it or check?
Keep it.
Okay. So now, at this point, our friend has good reason to believe this is red because otherwise he might have caught me cheating and that would have been really bad. He doesn't even know whether it's a diamond or a heart. He doesn't know its rank. He has no way, once he leaves the stage, of showing anybody else that it's red, but he still has good reason to believe this is a red vote. And think of this as an encrypted value that he can keep a copy of, and as he walks off the stage and remembers what this is, he can keep a paper copy of this side of it and see that it goes through the system without being able to prove it to anybody. Okay, so that's how the card trick works. Thank you for my friendly volunteer. Okay. Are there other questions? We have a few minutes. Yes?
Do you have any ideas about verifying in bulk, like that there's not a lot of ballot stuffing going on? It's easy to verify votes were cast, but how can you tell if invalid votes were not?
So I'm going to cop out a little bit here and say that the actual voting, the list of voters in an election is out of scope here because that's something public, and we can do that in public. In the US, not so much in Europe, but in the US, the list of people who voted is generally a matter of public record. It becomes very hard to throw in ballots, stuff extra ballots, because you have to put names on them, and if those are names of people who say, wait a minute, I didn't vote, or they don't exist, then there's a problem. So the way that we keep the additional ballots from being added is just say there can't be more than you can account for by the list of people who voted, and you can't take them out because the people who have these confirmations will notice, or could notice, I can't guarantee that they'll look, but they could notice if they've been removed, and they will be able to notice if they've been changed. Okay, I've got a question in back, and then I'll get to front. So, back? No. Yeah.
What do you do about people crying wolf?
People crying wolf. So that's, yeah, as you well know, that's a dispute resolution problem. It's a difficult problem in this field. There are some approaches to it. In this particular case, I think we can make a good case for forensic analysis being a way out. Because if I take a paper ballot and put it into a scanner and then say, okay, I want to spoil this ballot, I want to challenge this ballot the way we did in the card trick, and open up the commitment that you gave me, I've now got a paper ballot and an open commitment which won't match. So there is that physical capability, but doing better forms of dispute resolution is a good problem that we'd like to approach. Okay, there was one more question here, and I'm guessing this is near the, no, I've got another 2 or 3 minutes maybe, but yeah, go ahead.
I'm coerced by somebody to vote on red button and say, it's a public record. So that approach is not resistant.
It's a public record of your vote commitments. Your actual selections are not public.
Yeah, but I get it. I might have a mistake and made it public for some.
You can't. You have no way. You don't have the information to open it. The only thing that you can do to cause a ballot to be opened is in precinct, in situ. You can say, no, I don't want to cast this ballot. I want it to be opened instead. Everybody can now see the open ballot, but this ballot will not be your vote. Then, as with the card trick, you have to start again, and you can vote the same way or differently. So if you're being coerced to vote red, you could go and say, okay, give me a red vote. Now open it up, show the whole world. Now I want a black vote, and cast that one. And that black vote you cannot open. You cannot show anybody. There's no way for you to do that. Okay, I think I'm getting the time, so I think we're done. Thank you.